You know, for some people, it's real easy for them to decide what they want their life to be about. However, what's real difficult is for them to figure out what they're willing to give up to do the things they care about. Gerard Ibarra's book entitled Good Decisions, Better Outcome, a simple 5-step process to help people make important and difficult decisions with confidence and clarity, uses a blended strategy of humanity and cognitive empathy to help individuals find the healthiest path to their decision-making process that will ultimately lead them to the long-lasting results they want for their lives. Because of Gerard Ibarra's courageous and bold spirit to lead others to the next level of what their purpose is the reason why we've selected Gerard Ibarra as our number 7 candidate for the Next Level Thinking video series. Enjoy. So today, it's my honor to introduce Gerard Ibarra as my first guest on Next Level Thinkers.
Pleased to meet you. Pleased to meet you. Thank you very much for that introduction.
Absolutely. You know, actually it should be first. You're the 7th person, and the reason is because you have this evolutionary level of consciousness.
Yes.
and your ability to, your bravery, I should say, to get out there, write a book, and be courageous in leading people to find the healthiest path to making and helping them make better decisions for their lives. So it's awesome, man.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I like the word you use, healthy.
Awesome. Okay, so your book is Good Decisions, Better Outcomes. Just tell me a little bit about your book.
So it's a book about making better decisions, and I'm not talking about decisions as far as what am I going to have for dinner tonight, or what movie am I going to watch. I'm talking about decisions that are life-changing or that will have a significant impact in your life. So like buying a car, taking a new job in another location, whatever the case may be, it has to be those difficult decisions. So it talks to the person about how we make decisions.
Okay.
And then it gives them a step process on how to make better decisions, which includes their emotions, like you said. So it's what's best and what are you willing to give up to make that decision.
That's amazing. Okay, in your book you have a section called the Trifecta Influencers,
Yes,
Part 1. Tell me about that. What is
So the Trifecta Influencers is those things that get you to make decisions. So you have needs, you have wants, and you have emotions. Now needs is very efficient. That's something that you have to have. That's a requirement. Water, food, that's a strict need. But a want is something that you really don't need, but you want to have it. And that comes through your emotions. Your emotions tell you, I really want this vehicle. I really want this house. I really want this. But you really don't need some of those things that it's telling you that your mind is telling you that you need. So a want is something that you really don't need, and a need is something that's essential.
Okay.
And the emotions is what drives your wants. So if you have these strong emotions about wanting something, then you end up perhaps maybe making a wrong decision, or not an efficient decision, should I say.
Okay, so emotions, right?
Yes.
What is the number one emotion that impacts your decisions?
Wow. Well, that's a hard one. It's all different from individual to individual. So for me, I'm very emotional, and my emotions drive my decision-making process, which is part of the reason why I wrote this book. I have to put them in check. So it doesn't matter what kind of emotions you're talking about. It's just something that's rooted inside you that I have to have these shoes with a check mark, because I know if I have them, I'll be able to dunk the ball halfway through the court. So it's just based on what the individual wants. But those emotions, again, translates to wants. And then once it becomes a want, then you start thinking about making a decision whether I get this or do that.
Okay. And with that, what, to decide the decision, but what keeps you from making that decision? What is one of the things that
So I have what's called the 3-tier philosophy.
Yeah.
So the 3-tier philosophy is about systems 2 thinking, which is critical thinking.
Right.
It's about systems thinking, which is big picture thinking. And it's about your long-term end, your long-term strategies, which is your exit strategy. So if you have those in place when you're trying to make a decision, you're not going to make one off the cuff. First of all, you got to be thinking critically. You can't be watching a football game and saying, okay, I got to make this decision. Let me watch the football game, go back. No, you got to be really concentrating. And then you got to think about the big picture. Where's that going to take me to? What, if this decision is made, how's that going to affect other people or other things in my life? And then once you've made that decision, what's your exit strategy? What are you going to do after that product's no longer available, or you no longer need that product, or you're making changes in your life? You got to think about your exit strategy. So that 3-tier philosophy is what helps me and others to make better decisions.
Okay. Trust your instincts. You hear that catchphrase
All the time.
What is that? I was going to ask you, what do you think about that?
So according to Daniel Kahneman, he's a Nobel Prize winner in how people think, and they used his theory quite a bit in economics. So he says that instincts are nothing but things that you've learned, read, seen, heard in your past. And there's some debates about that, but your instinct, the only way you could get an instinct is if you learned something in the past or seen something in the past. It's your instincts telling you, no, don't do this. For example, you're going to go mountain climbing and you're at a certain age and you just broke your leg and you still haven't fully recovered. You don't go through this, well, if I do A and B and C, this is no. Instincts come in and say, no, I best not do this. Okay. So, yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to read you a quote. And interestingly, that you mentioned about systems and critical thinking, okay? And
yes.
I read this quote doing research when I started preparing
to
interview you, okay? It says, your statistical track record for decision making is somewhat concerning. And okay, so I started laughing when I read it because it was just so very dry. Okay, why is systematic thinking and critical thinking so important in decision making?
So it's funny you say that, because when I first learned this process when I was in grad school, I said, wow, everybody should be doing this. Why can't we have this and teach this in schools all the time? Well, it was in 2003 when I had to purchase a vehicle, and I said, I'm going to use my graphs, I'm going to use all this, I'm an engineer, so I'm starting to paint all these pictures in my head. But when it came down to making the decision, it was based on the price, how good the car looked, and how good was the sound system. I just messed up everything that I ever did. So that got me to thinking, okay, so why did I make that decision? And I started doing research for the book, and I learned that emotions play a very big part. Okay. So my process says, hey, it's okay to have emotions, but let's keep them in check here. Let's keep your emotions in check so they don't run out and take over you. So yes, emotions is very big, and yeah, there are times you make wrong decisions, and that's another thing I talk about. You don't know everything that takes place in this world. So the decision you make today is based on the data you have available, but something may come down the line that you didn't anticipate, COVID-19, hurricane, maybe even war. Mm-hmm. So those things you have no control over. So it comes, yes, that quote about making, you're wrong in your decisions. Well, it's not that you're wrong. You just had the most available information to make the best choice you could at that time.
So somebody could be obsessed and could get so obsessed in trying to make the right decision that they never make the decision.
Yeah. So so sometimes people don't want to make decisions because they're afraid of the consequences. And those are some of the pitfalls that I've learned, and I think it's by, I forget who the author is, but he talks about the decisions that people don't want to make sometimes. I know that Kenny and Rafia, they talk about that. So if you don't make a decision, or you continue going through this 5-step process, first of all, you're going to be going down a rabbit hole. Yeah. You're never going to make a decision. Yeah. Oh, if I do this, I do that, and if I do that, well, what about this? And then you start thinking more about it. Somewhere along the line, you're going to have to make a decision. So yes, it's making those decisions are sometimes difficult, but you have to make a decision. Otherwise, you'll never make one. You'll just analysis paralysis.
Gotcha.
So
okay, so it's fair to assume that the world is not so fixed.
No.
Like it's not like fixated. Like it's like this is what you're going to get.
No. The world's very dynamic. It's moving. It's very fluid. It just depends what kind of information you have available. And that's another thing I talk about is if you don't have all the information available, you may not be able to make the best decision. And sometimes that information may not be available to you. So, yeah.
Okay. Next question is, when does someone actually know that they've made the right decision?
Oh my gosh.
What are some of
Yeah, these are all very good questions. So my professor and I had a discussion because when I talked about this, when I learned this in class, I told another professor on my dissertation committee, hey, we have this process. I like to do it, and I'm going to write this book called Making the Right Decision. And he says, well, how do you know you make the right decision until after you make the decision? Well, again, it goes back to the data you have available, to how much you know about the thing. So there are things that you know, there are things that you know that you don't know. That's where you get help. Yeah. But then there are things you don't know that you don't know, meaning that the only way you're going to make a decision is you make the decision and won't know the effects until after it was made. But going through this process, at least you could go back and say, I made the best decision with the data available at the time I made the decision.
Okay. Some comfort, they'll feel some kind of...
Yes, some comfort. Because someone's going to say, well, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? Yeah. Well, I didn't have this information, or I made the decision based on what I needed.
Okay. I know you also are a business consultant, right?
Yes.
Okay, getting back to the systematic thinking and critical thinking, do you think that's something that's that kind of organizations have a problem with?
So,
right now?
So that's a good question again. It goes back to how much systems thinking the organization has. So, for example, I had to do some work for this one institution where the VP said, I have 3 directors, they're all great people, but they're all vying to take my job, and everybody plays against each other. So I have department A, B, and C always doing this. A says it's all about me, B says it's all about me, and C. So what he had me do, because I went through the process, go in there and talk in terms of a system, a big picture. Yeah. And say, look, the end result is not about department A, B, or C, it's about the company. So we're going to have to go through this. You'll have to give some, take some, because in the very end, everybody negotiating and working through what's best for them was also best for the entire organization. The focus was not on them, but on the entire company. So yeah, those are things that companies sometimes have difficulties doing because everybody has personalities, everybody thinks on emotions. But if you were to put that aside and say, let's think about the big picture, you can make better decisions.
I'd be interested in your take on normative power, but I'm not going to talk about that.
Thank you. Thank you. We don't want to go down that route.
Okay, yeah. Okay. Your book, Good Decisions, Better Outcomes. What inspired you?
So what really inspired me, and I had to do some deep thoughts about this. At first, I thought it was because of the wrong decision I made with a vehicle. And it was part of it, but when I finished the book, I said, this is really good to get people to think critically. If anything else that they get from my book is how to think critically, because a lot of times we make decisions that are very important, where, for example, you might make a decision on a house in a matter of an hour, but what movie you're going to watch might take you 5 hours. I've been down that road, but anyway. Yeah. But it's to think critically. That's my why for this book, is to have the individuals to think critically and not just go on what someone might say and say that's truth, that's gospel. No, you've got to think critically and maybe do a little research.
Okay, and with all everything that in your book, what is the takeaway is to think critically. And what other skills would you like for them?
So the takeaway, of course, is the trifecta influencers. What influences you to make decisions, needs, wants, and your emotions. And then the 3-tier philosophy, they help you put things in perspective, which is critical thinking, big picture thinking, and long-term thinking, your exit strategy. But there's something that it's the trademark of my book, or what I do. It's called the P2 mode. Okay. And it's process, parts, maintenance costs, operational costs, disposal, and emotions. And using that cookie cutter thing is what helps you go through that systems thinking about the big picture, thinking critically, staying focused, and your exit strategy. So that P2 mode, if you just memorize that, and when you have to make a difficult decision, say, okay, what parts go into this vehicle or this house? What process am I going to have to do to purchase this vehicle or this house? Like, a lot of mowing the grass or taking my vehicle to a special place. What's the maintenance cost, operational cost? What am I going to do when it's all said and done? Do I trade in my car? Do I sell my house? And put your emotions in there. You got to put them in there. Wow. So yes.
That's, I think you're so right about critical thinking, systems thinking, having systems thought. After getting ready, prepared for our interview today, I really I took a hard look. Said, okay, critical thinking. You know, it's like it really brought awareness for me. So I really appreciate it.
I'm glad that it brought some awareness to you.
Well, hey, you know, where can people get your book, and how?
So they could find it on Amazon. They could also go to my website, GerardIbarra.com, GerardD.com, and tells you a little bit about who I am and what I do. I also have some videos there that talk about the critical thinking, so they could check that out. But yeah, so they could get the books either there or through Amazon. If they go through my website right now, those paperback books, I'm doing an autograph for them. I'm signing the book for them. So
nice.
That's something that's available if they would like that.
Gerard, it's a pleasure to have a conversation with you about your book and everything that it encompasses. I think it's going to, you know, but definitely impacted me already. I did a lot of research on this. Normally, this is not my, you know, like, you know, and I think I was like, man, I'm a lazy thinker sometimes. You know, I really brought that little, you know, I was like, okay, you need to start preparing yourself.
Well, you know, that phrase there, lazy thinker, as a matter of fact, people don't like to think. We don't like to be in that critical thinking, especially me.
Yeah.
You know, I don't like to think. You know, just, you know, feed me some stuff and I'm good.
Just be, right?
Exactly. I'm just going to be, yes.
Yeah, be the consequences of something, right?
Yeah, that's all right. So.
No, I appreciate you. Thank you
Thank
for
you
taking the
again,
time
sir.
to have a
Thank you. Thank you.
Conversation with us, and we look forward to seeing you. You're also going to be something with Fellowship Power Lunch. Right?
Yes, yes. I'm going to be doing that. I believe it's in August. I don't know the exact date, but I'll be doing a presentation. I'll talk a little bit about the book there and how that ties into maybe something that's bigger than you, which is the Almighty. So yes, so that's what I'll be doing, and I look forward to that one.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, and yeah, we'll see you. I'll see you at that lunch.
Great. I look forward to it.
Awesome.
Okay, my friend.